Hello, everyone. On behalf of the American Federation of Teachers, I'd like to welcome everyone on today's webinar on using social and emotional learning to resolve classroom conflict. My name is Emily Coppolo, and I'm a Senior Associate in the Educational Issues Department at the American Federation of Teachers, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Victoria Chang from the Morningside Center for Teaching Social Responsibility. You can read their bios on the right side, or her bio on the right side of your screen. Thanks again for joining us today, and welcome.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me? We're going to do a quick test. If you can, just write yes in your group chats. Make sure our volume is good. Awesome. So once again, my name is Victoria Chang. I am a staff developer and coach at Morningside Center for Teaching Social Responsibility. To give you a little bit more information about Morningside, we are a nonprofit organization in New York City, and we've been working in the field of social emotional learning for over 30 years. Our approach to social emotional learning is twofold. We have skill-based curricula for pre-K to 12th grade, which is facilitated by teachers and supported by staff developers like myself. And we have initiatives to help administrators to help build equity in schools. Okay, we are echoing a little bit, so I'm gonna just tone my voice down a little bit. That might be helpful. So if there are any other problems, just write those in the group chat. I am looking. So before we get started, you're going to have your first poll question, which is what brings you to our webinar? So take a minute, 30 seconds to fill out your poll. All right. So let's take a look at what we have for our poll. Other. A lot of here for others. All right. So what brings us to this webinar? We have right now 100% other, which is interesting. And I'd like to know a little bit more in our group chat. I'm going to go back. Oh, here we go. Moved it around a little bit. I might have gone through too quickly. So a majority of us, a little bit more than half, is I already practice some SEL techniques and would like to expand my toolbox, which is wonderful. So we're going to help you expand your toolbox today with using SEL to resolve classroom conflict. And for those of you who have that other, I'd like to hear it. So if you do, write that in the chat box for me to help me kind of gauge and utilize this time to make sure we answer everybody's questions. So we have our agenda for today. This is what we're going to go through. We just had our welcome and gathering. We're going to prepare to talk about conflict today. We're going to say what is conflict. We're going to learn about our ABCDE problem-solving method. And we're going to move into win-win solutions. And then we're going to wrap it up for the day, and we're going to make sure that we answer as many questions today as possible at the end of our time together. So if you do have questions, please make sure that you put those in the Q&A widget down at the bottom. So our goal today is to look at how we can use social-emotional learning techniques to transform conflict into rich learning opportunities. So what is social-emotional learning? For us, it's a primary preventative approach to help shift student behavior in a more positive way. We want to make sure that we practice and have students practice to manage their own emotions and conflicts. So this regular preventative approach is going to help us change our classroom climate and behavior. so that we can work towards peacefully solving conflict. Because it always happens in our classroom that we do have conflict. So we're going to prepare and talk about conflict today. So as I saw in the chat group, we have a lot of interesting responses to learning a little bit more about social emotional learning. So please feel free to talk to each other and continue to write in that group chat. So preparing to talk about conflict. Conflict is something we deal with on a daily basis. It really does provide us learning opportunities, and it helps us practice our social emotional skills. For us, we want to think about self before we start discussing conflict with our young people. So, we have our responses to conflict. As you see on the screen, we have our three main responses, which is to avoid, postpone, or confront. When we avoid, we mask or ignore. We postpone and we wait for a later date. But most of the time what happens is we end up confronting. And we can do this in two ways. We can do it aggressively, and we can do it non-aggressively. So when we use our aggressive response to conflict, we have our physical aggression, our psychological aggression, verbal, and we tend to sometimes threaten when we are speaking and responding to conflict. Our non-aggressive response to conflict is we talk and we discuss feelings, talk things out, we listen to other people's perspectives, we decide we're going to agree to disagree, or we can go into problem solving and decide together and generate solutions. So for us to really think about ourselves and talk about what our main and most common response to conflict in our classroom is. So I want you to answer this poll question, which is, what is your most common response to conflict in the classroom? Avoid, postpone, confront aggressively, or confront non-aggressively. Take a minute to think about that. We're going to move into looking at what some of our responses are. As we look into our poll responses. So, 79% of us confront non-aggressively. And we use one of the strategies that we have here, whether to talk, hear others' perspectives, to problem solve. We have 79% of our participants in our webinar that have that, which is amazing and awesome. So, we're going to talk a little bit more, and in the chat box, I really want to hear what you have to say. Is there anything you would like to change about how you deal with conflict? Think about in our everyday situations, how we deal with our students, with our family members, with friends, because sometimes when we deal with conflict, depending on the situation that we're in, we can respond differently. So I see on our group chat that we were unable to interact and respond to some of the poll questions. So we can go back at the end and make sure that you get the opportunity to do so don't worry about that. So some of your responses are being assertive, a little bit more assertive, change passive aggressiveness to be a little less nervous when handling conflicts, switching gears, being assertive instead of passive. So there are a lot of different things that we can do and we want to do and change in the way that we handle our conflict. But all of the responses to conflict that we outlined have their strengths and their weaknesses, right? So one of the goals of social emotional learning is to expand our option for dealing with these conflicts. So we want to approach each conflict with what is going to work best. So we're going to move into talking about what is conflict. So conflict is a natural part of life. I don't think there has been anyone who hasn't dealt with some type of conflict. And what we're going to do is there are going to be some video clips today of New York City classrooms who are talking about conflict and how we handle them. So it's going to be a good representation of what you may see in our classrooms or how we're going to talk about some of these concepts with our young people. So, before we move on to our video, sorry about that, this is a New York City teacher who is speaking to her students about conflict. So let's see what happens.
Today, I want you guys to learn and discuss more about conflict and what makes up a conflict and how we can resolve conflict. So we're going to have conflict definition, win-win solutions, which I really like, our closing, and some written responses from you guys about what you learned. But there's some more juicy details inside. So I'm going to give your charts back. You're going to add a few more words, and then we're going to go over it, okay? Because your idea of conflict might be different from someone else's idea of conflict. So you can talk with your group. Do you think you have enough words? Do you think you need to add words? Do you think your chart is fine? The choice is yours.
Yes, thank you. I think I'm tried. That's good. I think we tried. Okay. Right over here.
Okay, boys and girls, so just take a look at your chart, and I want one person from each group. So you guys diplomatically figure out who's going to come up. Thank you. Come down a little bit. Do those words have anything in common? Anything? Aiden?
They're all related to conflict.
They're all related to conflict. Okay, what else?
Aggressive is related to fighting.
Ooh, aggressive is related to fighting. What do you think of when you think of those words on the chart? What do you think of when you think of those words, Erica?
Negativity.
Negativity. So when you hear the word conflict, you think negativity. Is that correct? Would you agree? Yes. I'm curious, what does the dictionary say conflict is? Take your time. When you find it, let me know, please. Marie, you have it?
Yes.
Okay, can you read it, please? Nice and loud.
It says conflict, disagreement or fighting. The conflict between the two sides lasted for years.
We're going to face conflict in our lives maybe every day. You have to figure out, how do I deal with it?
All right. So did you guys notice how the teacher introduced conflict? She used students' prior knowledge of the concept and gathered ideas to help them create definition for the word. This is a strategy we often use in social emotional learning. We want to practice our listening skills and learn from our young people because often they have something really important to say about the social emotional topics. Something that she had said, she mentioned that your idea of conflict may be different from someone else's idea of conflict, which is very true. After seeing how much her students knew, she then asked them to look into the dictionary definition. So once we start talking about conflict, we need to get into conflict resolution. So we have our 5 key concepts up, that conflict is a natural part of life. We can learn skills to better help us deal with conflict, which is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about the different alternatives. And one of the most important ones is sometimes we can all win. Our last is the process of creative conflict solving is rooted in a deep sense of respect for others and for ourselves. So I want you guys to think about the video that you just saw and answer the poll question. Can you imagine doing or having a conversation like that one that the teacher had in your own classroom? So talking about conflict, thinking about it, having our young people share with us what they think and some of the situations that they've had. Can you imagine doing this? So we have 93% is yes. So this is great. If you're not sure maybe and you have a question about it, please put that in our Q&A. So I'm going to give you some strategies today on how to problem solve. So we have our ABCDE problem solving method. And as we always deal with conflict, there's a lot of things that happen in our classroom that happen to the whole classroom and affect the class community. So when this happens, we can use this method. And we are going to see a teacher talking to their students about this particular method. Let's see what happens.
So there are 5 different steps or strategies that we are going to learn how to use to problem solve in any situation, okay? I've highlighted A, B, C, D, and E so that you can remember the steps that go along with these letters. So letter A, we always need to ask, what's the problem? B, we're going to brainstorm solutions, just like we brainstorm for our writing pieces and we brainstorm during scenarios. We're going to brainstorm. C, then we're finally going to choose one of the problems that we came up with. D, we're going to do it. We're going to try it out. See what happens with our solutions. And then finally, E, we're going to evaluate it. Did it work? Did it not work? So I thought about a topic, right, that we can all be engaged in, and it's problems within our classroom. So problems within our classroom, general problems, right? So let's think about general small issues that happen within our classroom. Let's think about this in partnerships, and then we're going to share out, okay, and create a list. Ready? Okay, turn into your partners. 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead.
All right, so we saw our ABCDE problem-solving process. We're going to go over it really quickly here, which is A, assess the situation and ask what's my problem. B, brainstorm our solutions. C, choose a solution, do it, and then E, evaluate the decision once it's implemented. So in the video, what we saw was the teacher gathered conflicts for the problem that the students observed in the class. The teacher really helped them clarify if those were problems that actually posed a conflict in the class with the whole classroom community. As you noticed, she did say that there were some that were just individual issues. So along with your students, always feel free to add something that you may have observed as well that you would like to problem solve. Remember, you're part of the community as well. So after they brainstormed, they chose a problem to focus on. So in this one, they did their problem, brainstormed which one they'd like to talk about, and then they moved again into talking about solutions for that one particular issue. So as we move and talk a little bit more about brainstorming possible solutions, we are going to move into our next video, which talks a little bit more about brainstorming and choosing.
And I could totally agree with most of the small issues that you guys came up with. So now let's share it out and let's create a list of all the little issues that we feel like we have within our classroom. Let's see. Sean.
What situation?
Lining up. Okay, so what about the lineup?
All the time people have gaps between one another, and also some people like to play around.
Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna write down lineup, and that's probably, so let's say gaps or playing around. I'm gonna add maybe chatty sometimes.
Yeah.
Having little side convos. So, okay. What's another problem that we thought about? Montserrat?
When we're doing our work, we don't get to finish because we're always playing around.
So maybe, I don't see that throughout the whole class. Maybe just one or two individuals, because you guys do an amazing job at your seats for the most part. So I'm going to hold on that issue. All right, one more. Cynthia?
When we start to talk at our seats.
I'm going to relate that to probably group work. I think during group work is where maybe we kind of lack focus, right? So I'm going to write unfocused sometimes. One more. Let's do one more. Let's see. Anthony?
Some people do not raise their hands but just call out.
That's a good one. Okay, great. So we created our list of issues that happen sometimes within our classroom. So we have issues during lineup. Some people leave gaps, playing around maybe sometimes, or chatty, tracking the speaker, having side combos on the carpet. So out of these 6 issues, which one is the one that you think you would want to work out first? I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Put your hands down so you can think about it. I'm going to say the problem first. Raise your hand. You can only raise your hand once, okay? You're only picking one problem, okay? So, lining up. Who would want to tackle that issue first? Raise your hand if that's the issue you want to work out today. Oh, okay, most of us. Okay, so
So I want you guys to use the chat box as we continue our discussion to share some situations that you may want to use to address some situations you might want to address using the ABCDE problem-solving method. How would this work for you in your time together? So as we're looking at the brainstorming and choosing, this is our opportunity to help students build skill in these areas. So we want to give them the opportunity to practice brainstorming and practice what they may do in a situation. So moving on to our do it and evaluation, we're going to have another short video that shows role plays as a great way to expand their thinking and learning.
And Ian, you can stand up right there. Careful. So now there's a gap between Tiara and Ian. Remember, this is an issue, so we're going to try to work on it. Start thinking about what could possibly happen, or what can we possibly do to correct this gap on our line.
You can grab their shoulders and move up, but don't pull them.
So you're saying for Anthony to grab Tiara's shoulder as a silent signal to let her know that she has a gap, because maybe she really didn't notice. All right, let's see. So maybe grabbing like that. That could happen. Do you think you're going to realize, Tiara, that you need to move up if he grabs your shoulder? Okay. Anyone has any other solutions? Jeremiah.
you could actually tap them on the back instead of the shoulder because that might be tiring.
Oh, it might be tiring? Oh, okay. So Tiara has a gap. Anthony, I want you to work out our first solution for this gap situation. I want you to grab her shoulder. Okay. Well, are you not going to close your gap? Yes. Tiara, how did you feel about that? You don't know? It was okay? It's okay to grab your shoulder?
I think it felt better if you tapped me.
So, grab was an option, but Tiara suggested that tapping just with one finger might be a better option. What do you guys think?
I think that's
Do you guys agree?
That's better.
I think so too. Okay. Tiara has a gap. Okay. It kind of seemed like a gentle signal. What do you think? Raise your hand if you want the classroom signal for closing gaps to be a tap on the shoulder. Okay, hands down. Tap on the back. Okay, we're going to do...
All right, so there was our do it and evaluate section after we are teaching our first skills of the ABCDE problem solving method. So when we use the role play to really help them think about and prepare them for situations that may happen in real life. So after teaching the ABCDE method, our do it would be over the course of a week. We would be using the strategy that they chose, practicing it throughout the week, and then coming back to evaluate, well, did this really work for us in this scenario? So when you take it from the lesson to our classroom, this is how you're going to be utilizing it for the do it and evaluate portion. So we always want to make sure we come back and we talk to them about, well, how did it go? Did this work? So we want to ask, what challenges do you foresee using this method
stand up right there.
in your classroom, using the
so
problem solving
there's a gap between Tiara and Ian. Remember, this is an issue, so we're going to try to work on it. Start thinking about what could possibly happen or what can we possibly do to correct this gap on our line.
You can grab their shoulders and move up, but don't pull them.
So you're saying for any...
So, right now, we have a 50-50 between time constraints and the feeling to urge and lecture students based on the problems that they're sharing. So, in classrooms, it is an issue sometimes, but it's really important that we take that time to really think about the problems and give them the opportunity to practice some of our SEL skills and their problem-solving skills. And in adding for the ABCDE, we can continue to talk to them and add. Remember, I had said earlier that in our, you guys are part of the community, so you can add something that you observed as well. So our poll results have changed. Thank you guys for adding some more choices in there. So we still are at our time constraints, which is a majority of what is happening right now. We're at 50% for there. So in with our brainstorming, we want to think about our win-win solutions. We were talking about how all parties can win. And sometimes this is really hard, and it is a creative approach to talk about solutions. So these, for our win-wins, these are for our interpersonal. Things happening between two children, an adult and a child, but we're going to use and see how this particular win-win solution can help through this video.
I'm going to pass out a paper right now, and it's called The 5 W's of Win-Win Negotiation. So when you negotiate, you're trying to figure out what when you negotiate? What are you trying to do when you negotiate, Zuriel?
how to like reschedule or change something.
Okay, I like how you use those words. Trying to reschedule or change something. How can both of them have a positive outcome? Something is a win-win. What am I talking about?
Both of the characters get what they want.
Both characters get what they want. We're always striving for this one, the win-win. There are different ways the situation can turn out, and sometimes it can be a loss-loss. Can you think of a time in which a situation, a conflict can be a loss-loss? It doesn't have to be the one that we just acted out. When can a situation be a loss for everyone involved? Jalen.
It can occur when, like, you and your brother, you and your sister, when I asked your mom who could play the video game, and then she says nobody could play.
Right. Good one.
When I wanted to listen to music during homework, but I couldn't, and my brother couldn't watch TV.
There could be a situation if there's some physical altercation. It escalates into something physical. Then both parties lose out because it results in a fight. And that's not what we ever want to resolve a conflict. Instead of fighting or coming back with words that are inappropriate, what are some other ways in which we can handle it with a peaceful outcome so everyone wins?
Or you can just talk it out with them and say some positive things about them and then become friends.
Okay.
Try.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
Before you guys start like a physical fight, you could try and self-reflect on like how the fight started.
Wow.
Try to like get over it and be nice to the person so that like it's over and you guys could be friends and stuff.
Okay, I like that word she used. She used self-reflect. Because you're going to think, how did you add to the situation and what can you do? Because it's difficult to change the behaviors of someone else. The behaviors you can change are of...
All right, so let's look at this handout that the teacher was giving out to her students. This is the 5 W's of win-win negotiation. So when we start talking about win-wins, these are the 5 questions we want to ask ourselves. What's our problem? What's your underlying need? What do you need? What do I need to be able to win in this situation? And what are some possible win-win solutions that can happen? So we're brainstorming our win-win solutions. And which one should we choose? Which one is our best option? So there's a really great story of the orange. So the orange story is about 2 people who are fighting over an orange. Neither of them realize what the other person wants the orange for. One is hungry and wants to eat it. The other really just wants to bake a cake and eats the rind. So if we're looking at underlying needs, if we talk about what we need, we're more likely to be able to find our win-win solution. So let's now watch students trying to find a win-win solution for a conflict between a parent and a child.
So our parent, child, please come up. And you're just going to watch and tell me what you think is going on.
Dee's having a birthday party tomorrow. Can you take me over there?
Tomorrow's Saturday. You promised you'll clean your room. Grandma will be coming over to stay in it. You have to clean your room.
Everybody's going to be at the party, and I don't want to miss it.
I'm not having my mother stay in the pig pen. You have to clean up.
I like when Grandma comes over, but I want to go to the party.
I don't have the time to clean your room. And if I take you to the party, I'll barely have time to clean up the apartment.
And see. Good job.
What is the conflict? Shayla, what's the conflict?
The conflict is that the child, Ariana, wants to go to a party, but her grandma's coming over and her mom wants her to clean the room. But if the mother cleans the room, then she won't have time to clean the apartment, and she doesn't want her mom to be coming over when the room is so messy.
Wow, that was a wonderful explanation. She's absolutely correct. Was there a resolution present? No. What kind of outcome do we want to have? a positive outcome, okay? So think for a minute, and then you're going to talk in your groups. How could they resolve the problem?
What do you say right now?
I say she should clean her room on Friday before Saturday. So all she has to do is go to the party, and then her mom clean the house.
Oh.
She could get the grandma appointment for next tomorrow then.
So you think she should delay Grandma's visit because the room isn't clean?
Or FaceTime her.
Would your grandma be pleased with that? Well, Grandma, don't come on Saturday. Come on Sunday because I have to clean my room.
Well, my grandma would say, it's okay, you can go to the party and not come next week because it's like that. My grandma would say that. The child clean it together, they can finish faster.
Oh, now that's a good one. If they clean it together, the mom would help the child clean the room? Okay.
Parents don't always want to negotiate. Parents want it done when?
Now.
Right now. Right? Right now. Yes, Zaire.
The parent doesn't want it to do another day. We're going to have to stick with Rainiel, what Rainiel said.
And what was it that Raynell said?
He said that they should do it on Friday.
Oh, okay. Do it on Friday. Okay, so we're going to start the scene again. And they're going to come up with their own version of a solution.
All right, so let's together generate some ideas for a win-win solution to this problem. How can both people get what they want? Oh, I am really sorry. I think we had skipped a, yes, I think we skipped a video in there. No? Okay. So how can both people get what they need? The mother needs the apartment cleaned before Grandma arrives, and her child needs to spend more time socializing. Yeah. So let's go back and talk about that. Put that in the chat box, what you think. So I'm just going to scroll back for a minute, and I apologize for this. Okay, I just want to
situation. So our parent child, please come up. And you're just going to watch and tell me what you think.
We have some answers here. So we have child tends the party, contingent of the room being clean, I make it like a game, we clean up the apartment together, set aside an hour to clean before going to the party. These are all really great answers. So let's see what the kids came up with.
I don't have the time to clean your room. And if I take you to the party, I'll barely have time to clean the apartment. You should have did it on Friday, like I told you to.
But I was doing my homework.
Really? Listening to music, doing your homework?
I guess so.
Really? Tell me the truth. What was you doing?
I was...
I'm going to pass out a paper right now, and it's called the...
I don't have the time to clean your room. And if I take you to the party, I'll barely have time to clean the apartment. You should have did it on Friday, like I told you to.
But I was doing my homework.
Really? Listening to music, doing your homework?
I guess so.
Really? Tell me the truth. What was you doing?
I was texting my friend.
If you're 4, you can't go to the party. You should have just did your homework and then you cleaned your room. And that would have saved you enough time to go to the party.
So I'll clean my room now and maybe I'll have enough time to go to the party.
Problem solved.
And scene.
So first and foremost, sorry for that technical difficulty of the slides going back and forth. but some of the answers that you guys did provide in the group chat were what the kids came up with. So to wrap up before our Q&A, the use of the ABCDE problem-solving method and win-win solutions can really help our students resolve conflicts peacefully. As a reminder, our SEL approach is a primary preventative approach. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we practice these before our young people get into a conflict situation. This way they have the skills and the resources, the toolkit, to be able to think through some of the conflicts that they're in. And then when the real life situation comes about, they are equipped and comfortable to use these skills to creatively resolve conflict in a positive way and work towards a win-win solution. So we have one last poll. So can you imagine teaching and using these techniques in your classroom? Please let us know if this is something, and then also we're going to move right into our Q&A session.
Thank you so much for such a great presentation. I'd like to ask everyone now who has questions to go into the Q&A widget and type in your questions. Also, you should now be able to download your professional development certificate if you answered the poll questions in this webinar. It's best to do that now before you log out of the session. You must be on a laptop or desktop to access this certificate. And now for our first question, we had a couple questions about adapting this method for different grade levels like middle school and high school.
So if we're thinking about using this for our older grades, all we really need to think about is some of the conflicts that are happening within that grade, the age range that you're looking at, right? So middle school problems and high school problems sometimes are very similar, and we can have that same conversation when we first start talking about conflict for our middle school, high schools. And then when we talk about the ABCD problem solving, we can get really into the meaty details on how to solve these problems. They will end up being age-specific when you ask your young people to share with you the issues and the concerns that they have.
Great. And then we had a couple different questions about getting buy-in, one from a counselor who wanted to know how to get buy-in from teachers, and another about how schools can get buy-in from teachers to do this type of work.
So one of the ways is really having, if you are a counselor and this is some of the work that you love to do, trying to talk with our teachers about what some of the issues are and coming into the classroom and working together to do one of the lessons, such as what is conflict and what are some of the things that they've been talking about. Buy-in really comes in when they see how effective and what kind of answers our young people are giving, that, you know, the thought process is there and they can creatively problem solve. It's really going to give them a push to say, hey, you know, this is really going to get my class thinking, and this can really help me in my own class using one of these methods. So I would bring it in, talk to somebody that you have a good relationship with, and see if you can try it out. And then also with the administrators, same thing. Invite them into a classroom to talk with a group of young people about it.
And what do you say to teachers who are overwhelmed at testing and other time constraints and say they don't have the time for this type of work?
One of the things that we do is, you know, conflict always happens. It's going to be inevitable that there is going to be conflict in the classroom. So to help with the time and feeling overwhelmed with testing, we can allow the use of the problem-solving method for the young people to do it on their own. Once we teach it, we can use it as a tool for them to problem solve together before coming to you and bringing the teacher their issue. They can use it, resolve their conflict on their own, and then come up with a win-win solution that may take a couple of minutes away from their class time, but it may save the teacher a little bit of work and take that pressure off of them with those little issues that are happening within the classroom.
Great, and I think we have time for one more question. In terms of data tracking, what questions do you think are most helpful to ask throughout the year to monitor qualitative data of student progress?
So one of the things that we always do in all of our curricula is that we have our evaluation questions, thinking about, what have you learned? Continuing to ask students the benefit of the topics that we are teaching them about social emotional learning. So what have you learned, even if it's a writing topic, and how have they utilized some of the skills in their everyday lives, right? Have they used it to talk out a conflict with their friends? Have they used it in the lunchroom or at home, to see if they are actually using the vocabulary and the skills that we have taught throughout the year.
Well, I'd like to thank you again for your presentation. It was wonderful, and thank you to our participants for joining us on this webinar. Please take the survey that will show up on your screen momentarily. This feedback is valuable to our speakers and us as we plan future webinars.
So we just want to thank you one more time here at Morningside, and if there are any more questions in that box, we are going to continue to answer those questions on Twitter, so please follow us there. Thank you guys so much for joining.